Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we are going to read together. This is a new series of reading that I want to start, and you will be able to watch it whenever you want. I will save this live stream. Today we are reading Six Goswamis of Vrindavan. It's not really a book, it's something that I have found online, and it's from Hare Krishna Sunday School from International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and I've printed it from my computer, and we are going to be reading that. So today's story would be about Raghunatha Das Goswami, and then about Sri Jiva Goswami. So let's start. I'm very grateful for everyone who has joined, and I hope you're having a good Hare Krishna day. First, we are going to pray to our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavati Pashtita Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As my spiritual master say, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Raghunatha Das Goswami shows his humility. With such a wealthy family, one would expect that Raghunatha Das was used to a very pampered lifestyle, the best food, the best clothing, and not a worry in the world. That may have been so, but Raghunatha Das gave up his rich living as easily as one would throw away a piece of garbage. After 5 days of being taken care of by Svarupa Damodar, Raghunatha Das began getting his food by standing at the gate of the temple and begging. He asked Lord Chaitanya what his duty was, and the Lord gave them these instructions. Do not talk like a materialistic people or hear what they say. You should not eat very tasty food, nor you should dress according to fashion. Do not expect honor, but offer respect to others. Always chant the holy name of Lord Krishna, and within your mind render service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Eventually, his father found out where he was. When he heard that his son was living so simply, he was very worried. He sent 400 gold coins, 2 servants, and 1 brahmana to Raghunatha Das. Raghunatha Das didn't accept the money, but would take it out a bit each month so that he could invite Lord Chaitanya to his house for 2 days every month. He did this for 2 years. He stopped because he felt that it was not right to offer the Lord food that was paid by materialistic people. Lord Chaitanya was very pleased with him and gave Raghunatha Das a conch shell garland and a stone from Govardhan Hill, 2 of his own favorite items. So conch shell garland and a stone from the Govardhan Hill. Raghunatha Das became more and more austere. At times he ate only prasadam that had been rotting for a few days, which the cows wouldn't even touch. Near the end of his life, he ate only a few drops of buttermilk daily. He never touched anything to wear except a small torn cloth and a patchwork shawl. He was chanting the holy name of Krishna 22 hours daily. He was offering his obeisances to the devotees 2 1,000 times a day, and to the deities 1,000 times a day. Wow. Raghunath Das goes to Radhakund. Years later, Lord Chaitanya left this world. Nothing could ever have been worse than this for Raghunath Das. He didn't want to live any longer. He went to Vrindavan to end his life by jumping off Govardhana hill. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami met him and convinced him not to commit suicide, but to live on and tell all the Vaishnavas about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So for 3 hours each day on the banks of Radhakunda, he would speak about Lord Chaitanya. Even today you can see his Bhajan Kuntir hut on the banks of Radhakunda. Once, Raghunath Das was sitting at Radhakunda when a tiger and tigress came to drink water from the pond. At that moment, Lord Krishna came and stood nearby in case the tigers disturbed Raghunath Das. Lord Krishna himself. Sanatana Goswami walked up and saw Raghunath Das, the two tigers, and also Krishna, who smiled at Sanatana. The tigers finished drinking and went away, and Krishna also disappeared. Sanatana told Raghunath Das what had happened and said, "Please make a small hut for yourself, so Krishna doesn't have to be bothered by coming to protect you." Another day, Raghunath Das was sitting in the same place under the hot afternoon sun. Then Srimati Radharani came and stood behind Raghunath Das, holding the top of her sari over his head to shade him. All of the swans, turtles, deer, and other animals came to the bank of Shyamakunda to watch. The Sanatana arrived again and saw Radharani standing there in the sun. He noticed that her sari was wet with her perspiration. Radha smiled at Sanatana and then left. This time Sanatana went to Raghunath Das and chastised him for causing Radharani this inconvenience. Raghunath Das then built a small hut so that he could perform his bhajan inside. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami shows us the perfect mood of humility and austerity. He also wrote many books and composed various bhajans and prayers. Raghunath Das was greatly loved and respected by all the devotees who knew him, and we can benefit from his association too. The Chaitanya Charitamrita states, anyone who hears about the incident of the meeting of Raghunath Das with Lord Chaitanya attains the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Raghunath Das Goswami ki jai. Next story, pastime, is about Sri Jiva Goswami. Sri Jiva Goswami was the son of Anupama, Rupa, and Sanatana's brother. This made him the nephew of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. Of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, he was the youngest and the last to reach Vrindavan. He had all the features of a divine personality: lotus eyes, high nose, and a forehead, a broad chest, long arms, and a radiant golden body. When he was young, Jiva Goswami made a deity of Krishna and Balarama. He would offer clothes, chandan, flowers, ornaments, and sweets to his deity, and then distribute the Mahaprasadam to his friends. He was so devoted that he would often cry while worshipping Krishna Balarama. Jiva was so attached to Krishna Balarama that at bedtime he would hug his deities and fall asleep. His parents thought that he was just a little boy playing, but the villagers were joyful to see Jiva's great love for Krishna and Balarama. His father Anupam was traveling with Rupa Goswami to Puri when he suddenly died. Jiva was devastated when he heard that his father was dead. "Alas," he cried, "this material world is a place of horrible cruelty. Who can ever be happy here to knowing that suffering will soon come? I will have nothing more to do with this cruel world. My life shall be spent in escaping this material life of pain and death." He very seriously began to study Srimad Bhagavatam and faithfully worshipped Krishna and Balaram. Jiva Goswami visits Navadvip. Young Jiva Goswami had wanted to visit the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, but his mother was afraid to let him do so. She didn't want her only son to travel and live a life of austerity. Somehow he convinced his mother that he really wanted to go and see the home of his ancestors. This didn't bother her, and she agreed to let him go. Jiva set out for his journey, but instead he arranged for the boatman to take him to Navadvip, the site of Lord Chaitanya's birth. As Jiva Goswami wandered about on the road, he cried with tears streaming from his lotus eyes, "O Chaitanya, O Nityananda, you are the life of all who live. When will I see you, my lords? When will I see Navadvip, the best of holy places?" The local villagers wondered who this young and beautiful lad who was so renounced. After many days of walking, he finally came to Navadvip. As soon as he saw the holy city, he fell down with folded hands to offer prayers and almost became unconscious. When his mind became steady, he arose and set off to find Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda's servants found him and brought him to meet the Lord. Upon seeing the Lord, he exclaimed, "What a wonderful thing I have seen today! You are the same Balaram that I worship." He recognized Lord Nityananda's true identity as Krishna's brother. "Please give me your mercy and shelter," he prayed. Lord Nityananda personally took Jiva Goswami on a tour of Navadvip. Together they saw the places where Lord Chaitanya spent his childhood. Jiva Goswami met Lord Chaitanya's mother Shachi and his wife Vishnupriya. Shachi blessed him and instructed Vishnupriya to cook a fine lunch for Lord Nityananda and Jiva Goswami. As the day passed, young Jiva went throughout the town of Navadvip, hearing Lord Nityananda tell of the wonderful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Nityananda told Jiva Goswami, "You should go to Benares now and study the scriptures. When you are finished, travel on to Vrindavan and stay there with your uncles." Jiva Goswami followed these instructions. When he reached Vrindavan, he served his uncle Rupa Goswami by washing his feet and assisting him in his writing. He later received initiation from Srila Rupa Goswami. Jiva Goswami is asked to leave Vrindavan. One day, Jiva Goswami was fanning Sri Rupa Goswami while he was writing. He was always trying to find ways to please and serve his guru. A very old visitor came to see Rupa Goswami. His name was Vallabhacharya. He was much older than Lord Chaitanya, and therefore much older than Rupa Goswami also. Vallabhacharya asked to see what he was writing to Rupa, handed him the book that he was working on. Vallabhacharya read some of the verses and liked them, but he felt that there could be some connections. Rupa Goswami said to him, "Please, take this manuscript then. You can make the corrections that you think are necessary. I'm going now to take a bath in the Yamuna." Jiva Goswami had been watching and hearing the whole conversation. Vallabhacharya spoke with Jiva for a while and learned that he was Rupa's disciple and a Sanskrit scholar. Jiva curiously inquired from him what he thought needed correcting in Rupa Goswami's book. Vallabhacharya pointed out a few questions he had. Jiva Goswami defeated and rejected all of the Vallabhacharya's arguments. He proved the excellence of Sri Rupa's writing and confirmed that what he had written needed no correction. Vallabhacharya was amazed at the knowledge of one so young as Jiva Goswami. He thought, if this young boy could defeat me so easily, what must his guru be like? I must have made a mistake in thinking that Rupa Goswami needed some correction. He hurried down to the Yamuna and fell at Rupa's feet, begging his forgiveness. He explained that his eyes has just been opened by the young Jiva Goswami, and now he could understand what a great personality Rupa Goswami was. Saying this, Vallabhacharya then left and went on his way. When Rupa returned home from bathing, he called Jiva Goswami to him. He said, "Why did you make such a big thing out of nothing? Vallabhacharya is senior to us and should be respected. He didn't mean any harm. If he wants to say something, then you should let him. Didn't Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teach us to be more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree?" Rupa was upset, thinking that Jiva had disrespected and offended the honorable Vallabhacharya. He continued, "You are not worthy to be a servant of the Lord. Go back to your home. You are not fit to stay here." When Jiva Goswami heard these words, he was crushed, but he obediently followed his guru's instruction and sadly left Vrindavan. He headed east and crossed the Yamuna to a place called Baigao and decided to stay there. Many crocodiles used to build their houses on the banks of the Yamuna. Jiva found an abandoned crocodile hole and lived inside it. He didn't eat, he didn't sleep, and he would not go anywhere. He took a vow of silence for 1 year. He just cried and cried tears of sorrow from being separated from his guru. The people in the area were astonished at seeing someone so young performing such severe austerities, and they wondered who he was. One day, Sanatana Goswami was passing through Baigao, and the citizens greeted him joyfully. They praised him for his austerities, but they said, "You indeed are very wonderful, Sanatana Goswami, but your austerities seem like nothing compared to the austerities that this young man is performing on the banks of the Yamuna. He simply sits in a crocodile hole, calling out, 'Krishna, Krishna, Guru, Guru, Rupa and Sanatana,' while shedding tears like rain." Sanatana Goswami could understand that this must be Jiva Goswami. He immediately went to the banks of the river and found the crocodile hole where Jiva lived. When Jiva Goswami saw the older Goswami, he tried to get up, but he was too weak, so he just laid on the ground offering his obeisances. Sanatana Goswami picked him up and told him, "Come, I'm taking you back to Vrindavan." But Jiva was too weak to walk and had to be carried on a coat all the way. He had only been eating some plain chapati dough. The people would sometimes leave him, which gave him stomach ulcers. So he was very feeble and ill as he returned. When Sanatana Goswami reached Rupa Goswami's place in Vrindavan, he left Jiva Goswami outside. He went in and said to Rupa, What is your duty towards the jivas, the living entities who are drowning in this material ocean? Srila Rupa Goswami replied, my duty is to save them. Sanatana asked, don't you have any compassion for the jivas of this world? Of course I have compassion for them, Rupa replied, surprised. Then why, said Sanatana Goswami, did you not show any compassion to this jiva? Hearing these words from his older brother, Rupa Goswami realized his mistake and rushed out to embrace Jiva Goswami. He took Jiva inside and said that he was taken care of until he fully recovered. After the disappearance of Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatana, Jiva Goswami became the Acharya for all the devotees in Bengal and Orissa. He guided the devotees in their spiritual lives while he continued writing many books. His fame spread all over India. Even the Mughal Emperor Akbar traveled to Vrindavan to meet Jiva Goswami. Emperor Akbar was so impressed by him that he offered to help the Goswamis construct some of the temples of Vrindavan. Of all of the Goswamis, Jiva was the youngest. But he also wrote the most books. He wrote about 25 books or 500,000 Sanskrit verses. Wow, 500,000 Sanskrit verses on the science of Krishna consciousness. He also established the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. 500 years later, Srila Prabhupada stayed at this temple while writing his books about Krishna consciousness. I think this is it for today. We have been reading few leelas about Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Raghunatha Dasa Goswami. I hope you enjoyed it because the leelas and pastimes of the 6 Goswamis are very special. They help us to remember where we came from, remember Vrindavan, and remember the best examples that we should follow on our path of our spiritual development and our path of bhakti. And I hope it helped you in some way and just helped to wake up some feelings towards the Goswamis and Vrindavan and Krishna. And I will see you next time. Oh, sorry. Here's a question. Who is Goswami? The 6 Goswamis of Vrindavana are the 6 saints that lived in Vrindavan 500 years ago when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan. He manifested his form as Lord Chaitanya from the spiritual sky, and the Goswamis, they are his close associates, and they also came to assist Lord Chaitanya in his pastimes. And each of the Goswami is very, very special, and they have their own pastimes in Vrindavan. And Lord Chaitanya said that they should discover the lost places where Radha and Krishna's pastimes were in Vrindavan. They should discover it and tell the world about those places. And also they should write books about Krishna consciousness, about how to be a servant of your guru and Krishna, and how to practice this Krishna consciousness to actually achieve perfection and go back to the spiritual world. So, yes. Why do you practice spirituality? Someone asks. I practice spirituality because it brings me true happiness, and I have never experienced such happiness as I experience when I read such pastimes, or when I sing for Krishna and with his devotees, or when I eat prasadam, which is a food that is offered to the Lord. And I just practice spirituality based on my own experience, and I have never experienced anything like that anywhere else. And this is why I do it. It really makes me happy, and I see how it changes people from like smoking, drinking, like doing drugs and being lost in life, hating themselves and their bodies, their friends, like being a very bad person, doing very horrible things. And when they meet devotees of Krishna, they get so much mercy, so much love that they never get anywhere else, and they start practicing and they really change inside, and they start to actually become better and develop better qualities and change. It changes their whole life. And somebody says where I'm from Russia. So I think this is it for today. Okay, there is one more question. How can one practice spirituality? One can practice spirituality in very different ways. First way is to do something from your heart for Krishna and to dedicate this activity to him. You don't have to become perfect tomorrow. You don't have to like pretend to be saint and do all of the things. You can just do what you can and do what you love. You don't have to change your life. You just can add Krishna consciousness to it and do everything for Krishna, because the most important thing is your intention and what you feel inside. If you do it from your heart very sincerely, and you offer it to the Lord, whatever it is, whether you cooked a salad or you build a car or you sold something or you just went to work, you can just dedicate this activity to Krishna. And this way it's going to be your spiritual practice. It's just about doing our worldly duties, but for Krishna. And also you can go to the Hare Krishna temple in your city, because such temples are in literally every city of the world. And you can just go there and find devotees, find answers to your questions, and just listen to kirtans. This is spiritual music when people sing the Lord's names. And it's very, very auspicious. It wakes up a real love in your heart for the Lord, and it helps you to establish the relationships with the world and relationships with the Lord and with the world. And the most important things in our Krishna consciousness movement are that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he manifested 500 years ago as Lord Chaitanya in Navadvip, and he came to flood everyone with the love of God. And also his warrior, so to say, his amazing servant, Srila Prabhupada, he also came from the spiritual sky to us, and he was born in India, and then and then he came to America, and there he spreaded this spiritual practice, and then his disciples spread it all over the world. So he is our main Shiksha Guru, and you can read about him, you can read his books, and this way you will become more informed about Krishna consciousness. You will get the right information, and everything is very, very simple in his books. He tried to explain it the best way he could, and he is such an amazing spiritual teacher and amazing person, very loving, very accepting. And I'm sure if you try to read his books, you will be very surprised how simple and how true they are, and how much even having a book in your home is so auspicious. It changes your whole life. And yes, I will try to make such reading sessions more often if I can, and I hope you enjoyed this reading, and I will see you next time. This time 100% I will finish at this point. Hare Krishna.